I thought maybe I will share some recent work that I have been doing with a group of colleagues who actually are here. Some time ago, Supratik Sarkar, who's the editor-in-chief, who spoke at this event last year at Miami. Actually, it was shortly after that event. He reached out to me and said, look, it has been almost 15 years since that 2010, the layer modular architecture paper came out. And to our surprise, Ola and I and Kali, we wrote that paper, and we had no idea that, what that paper will do. And we are very happy to see that paper was accepted. But then, to our surprise, the paper became quite successful. And many of you have read that paper. And maybe we should reflect on the development of the field of digital innovation in the form of editorial. And he asked me to invite a group of colleagues who are on the editorial board currently, or immediate of former editorial members. And we decided to write an editorial. So it was a bit of a journey that we took, many of us, so including myself, Ola Hanfredson, who's in the room, Yanis, from whom you will hear a little later, Robert Gregory, Gore Birch, who was there last year, and then Suti Chatterjee, and then Supratik himself. And we hope it will be available in December, I believe, if not next year, first issue of next year. And we just finished, and not final, but sort of complete draft. You know what it is like. So we are still going through some editing and, dieting, reducing the length of the editorial. So I thought it might be useful to share what's in it without giving away every single detail, so that you will actually read it. We thought we will review what we wanted to say, what we didn't say quite forcefully. We had in mind, but when you write, and then also when you go through the review process, you have to say certain things in certain way. But also, what is also interesting is that along the way, as we read other people's work, reflecting on our own work, and then also the conversation, we learn something about our own work in a way that we didn't understand when we were writing. So, it is, given the growth of the community, it's an evidence of that digital innovation is a coming of an age. It is mature. It is no longer a foreign term. People talk about it. You turn on Bloomberg, CNBC, even CNN, and mainstream media. You hear this term a lot: digital transformation, digital innovation, digital entrepreneurship, digital startups. So on one hand, we should feel really good about where we are. But at the same time, we feel some tensions that we face in our society because of what we have started observing, probably before then other disciplines, because of the privileged position that we have close to technology. So we'd like to begin with what we think is a grand challenge. There are many, but this seems to be a quite pertinent grand challenge that I believe we face in our time. That is, clearly, as we expected, enormous value has been created through digital innovation. Certainly, generativity is real when we are confronted with this delayered modular architecture with what we call system agnostic digital components and data objects, which can be recombined. They produce very powerful foundation of value creation. We also learn, data, once they're accumulated through this structural condition, become incredibly important source of value creation. So all of this is wonderful. But what we are now painfully observing is that not everyone is benefiting from that value creation. We all know this expression, Magnificent Seven. And this represents trillion-dollar valuation companies on the back of individual consumers who give away their privacy, their data, despite of millions of app developers, very few actually make money. And all these efforts that people do, essentially helping very few powerful companies. So the question that I'd like to, this is actually not in the language of the paper, but as I was getting some feedback about the paper, this one I'd like to add to the paper, do we want to continue to be a part of a problem? Which I believe, in a way, this whole global integration, supply chain, all of that our field has contributed to, created, I believe, what we are seeing post-liberalism society, where we are facing domestic crisis, political crisis, and division in a society due to the hollowing of the middle class. And what we have done and studied actually clearly contributed to it. Now, are we going to add yet another problem and irresponsibly walk away from it and then say, hey, we help some people to make a lot of money and we're going to continue to ignore the problem we contributed in creating? Or do we want to actually be a part of a solution, at least try to wrestle with it? And I think this is an important question. Now, one of my colleagues, our colleagues who read the earlier version of the draft and said, what about AI? You guys don't talk about AI. And I think AI is an important topic that, and then as Rodrigo said yesterday, about 90% of the papers that you wrote are related to AI. Clearly it is important, but is it really the next frontier? That's one question. It is here and now, but also I would argue that AI is only going to exacerbate the problem that we face. It's not going to address the problem if we continue to approach digital innovation the same way that we have done. We will only contribute, like why NVIDIA or OpenAI or Google or Amazon will continue to take advantage of AI, which was trained by the data that other people have created. And are we going to just continue to do that and having fun with writing papers? Or are we actually going to have some critical voice to change the course of the society? So in that editorial, we try to raise at least two, recognizing diversity in our field and complexity of the problem. I don't think there is one single way of addressing this complex problem. So at least we try to offer 4 different entry points from which we can actually deal with this problem. We believe these 4 different entry points potentially represent the contour of the frontiers of not single frontier, but multiple frontiers that our field may be able to address. So what are those? The first one is the idea of distributed generative recombinant innovation through layer module architecture. So what we said was, let's look back, what are the assumptions we had when we were writing and what we learned since then. So the assumption we had was the 4 distinct layers creating separate value spaces with the system agnostic digital components will enable distributed and generative innovation through recombination. We also thought that industry and product boundaries will be blurred and then the shift of value creation from corporate to individuals or independent third-party app developers will take place. To a degree, yes, but what we also found out is that disproportionate value capture by a few, and in fact, the original paper and the majority of the subsequent papers that we have seen actually do not talk about value capture, not just who captures the value, but value capture in general have been ignored. We learned that one of the key points is that centralized control is something that is incredibly important. And one of the points we make is that distributed innovation is not the same as decentralized innovation. And we need to think about it carefully. The second point is the positive network externalities. This has been incredibly important theoretical construct that we have studied, and many of us have been influenced. It is not a new concept, but platform and digital innovation powerfully manifest and scale it at a level that we have never seen before. What we have seen, however, that in the reality, there are new forms of externalities that we have observed. Recent paper that Robert and Ola wrote reflects that. But at the same time, we have to pay more attention to the negative side of negative demand side externalities, overcrowding, privacy concerns. And also, we need to think about how the centralized LMA might be used by dominant platforms. The third area is data, and to a degree directly related to knowledge and AI. So in the original paper, we said homogenization of all data is going to be a part of layer module architecture's content layer. Data as a new economic resource through learning effect. A little bit, we kind of had that expectation. But recently, scholars like Christina and Yanis and others have forcefully observed that centrality of data in value creation. Data actually is much, much more important than simply being a part of 4 distinct layers, something that you will hear today. Privacy concern and data exploitation is a very important topic. Mainstream economists have started talking about the economy of privacy, much more careful and nuanced understanding than earlier work by Zuboff focusing on surveillance economy, something that we need to pay attention to. And data going beyond the technical and economic token, but more as an comprehensive understanding about data as epistemic and semantic and communicative function, as the book that Yanis and Christina wrote, and then you will hear from Yanis more about it later today. And finally, we felt that digital innovation practice, we are not, in a way, practice scholars. We have some of those papers, but that's not where the main sort of focus of the paper. It was a very structural argument. We felt that layer module architecture is going to create that sort of a structural condition. However, we cannot ignore the ethical, psychological, and social consequences of digital innovation created under that structural condition that we articulated in the paper, and also some of the consequences or work practices within that structural condition. For example, the AI workers, the welfare of their, the people who label this data or training AI. It is horrendous working conditions. We sometimes don't pay enough attention to those aspects. So these are some of the things that we thought that we need to think about. So it raises a set of new questions. I'm not going to go through it, but we again organized a set of new questions as kind of like instigating your thought process, potentially your inspiration, thinking about what are some of the potential themes that we might probe further. So related to, again, architectural questions, externalities, data, and innovation practice. So we hope that those who are interested in design science or been looking at more technology-centric view will continue to have a role. Those who have expertise and interest in looking at things from an economic theory perspective will have a point of view to share. Those who are interested in data, it's a deeper meaning. Also going back in history, in management theories about organizational learning, cognition, and knowledge management. I think we have a lot of opportunities to contribute interdisciplinary work through collaboration with people who are focusing on policy, privacy, ethics, data scientists, and computer science. I think those are all exciting opportunities just around the area of digital innovation practice and data. So we sort of argue that digital innovation research is at crossroads. We can continue on what we've been doing and ignore some of the tensions that we see everywhere and let other scholars from other disciplines to think about it. As we were working on it, I discovered and read a lot of really penetrating work done by colleagues in media studies, cultural studies, and sociology and economics who pick up these issues that we do not pay enough attention to. And our field always complained that we don't get enough credit for the work that we do. People do not pay enough attention to the work that we do, and what we do matters. But I think we could actually do something that is relevant and important for the society at large, not just a few. And we also thought about adding a separate section on ethics. At the end, we decided not to have a separate section on ethics, but embed discussion of ethics throughout the paper. When you take out ethics in your teaching, it's the week 15 topic that you cover. And we don't want to do that in the article either. It's some sort of like a afterthought. I did some research on, Collis was part of the interview. I was asked by a leading consumer electronics global company, who was constantly looking for next big thing. What should we do for next, $1 trillion market opportunity? So they asked me to interview about 15 thought leaders in tech area, and a lot of, at that time, AI guys, high performance computing people, data scientists, and innovators, venture capitalists. So I interviewed a bunch of them, and what was interesting from that those interviews, was that several leading technologists said one of the most important design science issue, technology design issue, is actually ethics. And what they said was quite striking. They said, a number of them said, we tend to not worry about those social consequences, unintended consequences, or ethics. We build the best technology we can build. We let other people to worry about the consequences of our tool we build. And then they said, reflecting on what the technology can do, we cannot leave out ethics concern outside of the design. It actually has to be built in our engineering work. We have to think about it. We have to reflect on the choices we make. What does it do to people and so on. So I think these are interesting questions that we should ask. And then, that was the decision. Artificial intelligence, again, as I said, I think it is going to be an important topic that we need to continue to think about. But I encourage and challenge you to not to just focus on functional use of AI, but also more critical view. But I think this is a challenge, right? On one hand, some of you may have read Sam Altman's blog a couple days ago. And then also we find enough skepticism and, doomsday, scenario pessimist about technology at the same time. But I think what is missing is healthy, nuanced, balanced view that does not give up the power and generative power of technology on one hand, but also someone who's mindful about what it can do when it is gone wrong. And what we see in the society at large, the discourse where I think we can contribute is that middle ground. You see one side that like anything goes, let's accelerate AI, let's accelerate digital innovation. On the other hand, we say we should stop it all, we should regulate more, without really understanding what that might do to the innovation itself, what would be an the opportunity cost of not making that innovation. So I think neither of them are quite acceptable positions in my view and our view. And so those are some of the things we felt that we need to think about. Research methods. I think I read 4 papers carefully on our table. It's AI or the digital innovation is not subject of our research, but it is also a tool of our research, and I think it is quite exciting. New theories. I think we have an opportunity to embrace new theories or explore new theoretical foundation and build new theories. We often complain that computer scientists do not understand social side enough. But when you look at IS research that is looking at social consequences, we love complaining about the companies and AI do not understand the nuances of politics and power. Can we go beyond that, right? And then unpack the technology a little bit deeper. Exactly what is different instead of just talking about technology at a high level, just talk about AI at a high level, but let's go a little bit deeper. What are the theories then help us to allow us to go deeper into technology in a meaningful way without losing sight on the social aspect and other important non-technical issues that we would like to also deal with. So these are some of the opportunities we believe that our field and this particular community has an opportunity to contribute. So I hope that you will read it when it comes out. And so if you have any questions, happy to. And then we have co-authors here, so I feel very emboldened to encourage you to ask any questions so that I can deflect those questions to my co-authors. Yes. Thank you.
Very interesting talk, Youngjin. I especially like the part about, let's say, non-business value outcomes, the ethics side. Is it possible maybe to reflect a little bit more? Is that something where we should just switch on the variable and we care more about ethics? Or is that something that fundamentally maybe affects the way we are theorizing? Should we move more towards a prescriptive way of theorizing with, let's say, a more ethical way directly embedded in our research design?
Well, if I may share my own view, and I encourage others to jump in, I think it's your individual choice you make. Some people may want to continue to focus on, value creation and, how companies can take advantage of digital, but do so in a more reflective way, understanding what it might do to others. Others may actually pick up new dependent variables, so to speak, right? And think about ways in which we can create more balanced growth or balanced value creation. I don't know, Yanis or Ola, Robert, if you want to share your thoughts.
I mean, one thought to share is that there was a recent editorial in AMR that is criticizing this approach that, almost every paper there's a filter with propositional style, and when you develop propositions, it's very much explanation and it's not so much a prescription and forward-looking, right? So I think there is a debate unfolding about what is the best way to develop theories that are broad enough, that are future-looking, that don't just look in the past and the present, but that are pre-science kind of in a sense, right? So there is a little bit of discussion about that, but I think implementing it and what are the scripts available to make it publishable in the top-tier journals is an open question right now.
So building on that, do you have any views on new method in terms of simulations perhaps, right? Just thinking about what do all the scientists that are concerned with climate change, what do they use, right? They're running incredibly large simulations to understand the things of their things. Is that something you see potential for, especially talking about the adverse effects of generativity and kind of negative externalities and those kind of things? Those can be hard to anticipate. And often, if you study them after the fact, it's oftentimes too late, right? So is there maybe a way to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have many experts in this room, doing large scale field experiments as well as simulation. So I think there are just incredible opportunities to observe. One of the things that I learned recently on campus, we have climate data group, and and they have accumulated over 30 years of climate information data and in a very detailed manner at a zip code level. And every semester, they have a data science project to leverage, add new data set, and build new model to represent different parts that we didn't know how to represent as a model, right? So, for example, some of you may remember maybe a couple of years ago, East Palestine near Cleveland, about an hour from here, had a train derailment, and it has very dangerous chemical which could explode, so they had to burn it. What they didn't know was that the after effect of burn was very toxic pollution coming up. Now, what they did was they had sampled the pollutant in the air and then correlated that with the massive amount of data that they have in the satellite image, which they had, all these years. And they built a new model that allowed them to detect the presence of that toxic chemical. Because no one cared about that chemical, we never had a model. Now, what they were able to do was, using that model, they go back in history over 30 years. They could detect where in history over the last 30 years that pollutant actually was present in the air at a very accurate, granular level. It's incredible new way of doing science. Now, with that data set, they can go back in public health data to see what impact such chemical could have on people's health. Now, if you think about doing that type of research, it's just incredible. You could run an experiment in a retrospective way in a massive scale. So again, that's just one example of type of work I think we could do with clever use of data, careful calibration of what it indicates, and so on and so forth. Any other thoughts? Yes.
I have a question. You say we need to have a critical voice, and I was wondering, because you also said that there is so few companies that finally captures this value, and so few people that a lot of company or more individual reject all those digital innovation, and there is an increase of people that do not want to deal anymore with technology, things like that. Do we need to study those people? So it's good to better understand, what is a real value and what kind of values the people who reject digital technology have instead of the digital value. Is it something that we need to look at or not?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, feel free, others, Ola and Yanis. But yeah, non-adopters, I think it is just as interesting, right? We take digital native, Gen Zs and Alpha generation take for granted that they will use technology, but we also learn that they are enjoying analog culture and appreciate analog culture more than what we expect them to do. And so those are interesting observations and opportunity. What drives people not to embrace popular digital culture. But yeah.